Next game we want to cover here is the Tennessee Titans versus the Chicago Bears. Um, I gotta say, after watching that game, I am looking at my impressions on that as I'm watching two quarterbacks who have absolutely no way, shape, or form should either one of these two be starting in the NFL. Caleb Williams had one of the worst performances, and I know the Bears won, but he had one of the worst performances I have seen out of a quarterback just purely from a talent point of view. He missed open receivers. He caused his team 3 points by taking an egregious sack, and people are going to say that's his first start, and he blah blah blah. He deserves to sit on the bench and watch. Maybe he's going to be good in the future, but I tell you what, he continues to hold on to the ball, the boy's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to crush him. You are going to get sacked in the NFL when you hold on to the ball that long. And when you continue to miss open receivers, and I mean, he was bad. The only thing worse than Caleb Williams playing quarterback yesterday was Will Levis. Oh my God. Just awful. I mean, and that egregious decision he made, he threw more touchdowns for the Chicago Bears as a quarterback than Caleb Williams did. Oh, by the way, so Caleb, take a lesson from Will Levis. Throw to the guy in the dark navy blue and orange uniforms
It was
and
bad.
hit him. That might have been the worst decision I have ever seen a professional quarterback make in my lifetime of watching the NFL. Will Levis, right there, deserves. Who is Mason Rudolph is the backup there in Tennessee. Will
Rudolph.
Levis should not see the field. Okay, anytime soon. Anytime soon. I mean, that was, take your Mayo commercial and live with that because that's all you got. Because you actually, the Titans actually have a decent team. I mean,
I
I'm
don't know
watching.
about that.
They've got a decent defense, not great, but decent. They've got a okay offensive line, and they're not a playoff team, but they're not bad. The Bears, on the other hand, are a borderline playoff team. But if they get quarterback play like this from Caleb Williams, they're going nowhere. I just call a spade a spade. They're going nowhere. Um, I know we cashed on the game, so I'm happy about that. Uh, but what the code have to say, and you heard my rant. Neither one of those two
So
quarterbacks are
I'll preface
starting level
this.
quarterbacks in the NFL.
I'll preface this to the listeners. We had 2 units on the under. Okay.
That is true.
And the rant about Will Levis you just went on is because that under should never have even been in play. And because Will Levis made, as you said, one of the worst decisions I've ever seen out of an NFL quarterback in an actual game, the under actually was brought into play when it should not have been. So I'll preface that first and foremost. Um, Caleb was bad. Caleb himself will tell you he was bad. 14 of 29 for 93 yards is bad. Um, they didn't really run the ball great. Swift only had 10 carries for 30 yards with a long of 20. That means his other 9 carries went for 10 yards. Caleb's got to be better than that. But when you look at it, preseason he was 10 for 20. Now in the regular season he starts 14 of 29. He's missing open throws. It was his first start, and I think he'll be better. But when you compare it to the expectations, 2-2 did not equal 4 with that. And I suggest for Bears fans and just NFL fans in general, it's okay to struggle early. You look at some of the quarterbacks that had worse opening games than he did. John Elway was worse. You got I saw a list. There's like 7 or 8 Hall of Fame quarterbacks of the, I think, 15 or so, if I remember the number correct, that had a worse opening game number wise in rating, like 7 of them are Hall of Famers. So this does by no means mean that he's going to be a
Did
bust.
Jamarcus Russell have a worse opening game than Caleb Williams here? I
I don't
remember
recall.
him being a number one quarterback, going to be a savior for the Raiders. And yeah,
I mean,
Whew.
I will say this though about Caleb. He's probably in the best situation that a number
Oh,
one pick has ever gone to, at least in my recent memory. The Bears are loaded with talent. I thought their one outside linebacker was Taylor was just a monster.
yeah,
I don't know where he
the
came
new
from, but
kid,
he was
the
in
new
the
kid they
backfield
got from Seattle.
every time he was in the backfield.
He was
Um,
phenomenal.
I mean, and a lot of Caleb's struggles were really kind of with Keenan Allen. Him and Keenan, I mean, Keenan Allen had 4 catches on 11 targets. They just couldn't get on the same page. Some of them were misses, but it
Keenan
was not a
Allen,
good game.
to Caleb Williams' credit, and I'll give a little bit of credit where credit is due. Keenan Allen dropped a touchdown
Yeah,
that should have been caught. So I'll give Caleb Williams a little bit of a reprieve. However, if the Bears want to be a playoff team and have playoff aspirations, they are going to need better quarterback play than that. I mean,
absolutely.
we get we get on a Lawrence or a Daniel Jones who have similar numbers. Their numbers are better than Caleb
He played one
Williams.
game though. I mean,
So
it was one game.
well, he's done this now. There is a pattern here, and he has talent around him. I guess this is where my frustration lies: is Caleb Williams has much better talent around him than Trevor Lawrence or Bryce Young or Daniel Jones or some of the
Yeah, you expect better.
and Will Levis. Yeah, I expect better out of
Their
him.
O line
I
did struggle though. He was
he
running kind
was
of for the O line for the Bears did struggle.
yeah.
And I guess
The
we'll have to
O-line,
figure out if that was a Tennessee thing or if that was a Bears
yeah.
problem.
I tell you what, the guy that impressed me the most yesterday in that game is the Tennessee defensive lineman Sweat. That
Oh,
kid
T'Vondre Sweat
dominated the middle.
he's a
That kid
beast. Well, he was
dominated
a
the middle.
monster at
He
Texas.
was impressive. If there are any takeaways from yesterday's game beyond the fact that Will Levis was the best quarterback that the Bears had on the field for him, was that Sweat kid can play and dominate the middle. He is going to be a handful for
Yeah.
years to come. Tennessee has a building block with that kid. You surround talent on the D line, they can be dominant. So, anyhow, I'm glad this was a big 2 unit win for us. I think the code was spot on there, and I'm glad we were able to move on and cash at the window